Hey, Tristan. I guess it really is demon time, huh? Not you, Gawain! Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, Roto4765, Midnight Gemlord, Artgoon, and Sean. Now, here on this breakdown / discussion and review of chapter 92 of Four Knights of the Please leave your own listen to the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support Frizzle as $1 a month, getting exclusive videos, early content, and more. Some of those exclusive videos, including the live reaction to this very chapter. You can also now become a member of the channel to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into last chapter's poll. So, last time I ended up asking y'all with the reveal and twist that Merlin of the Four Knights of the Merlin of the Seven Deadly Sins, the mightiest mage in all of Britannia, is now not really there. Not with Arthur-kun, the one she swore to protect. What was the verdict? How are we feeling? Because obviously, this is a big twist. Like, for a majority of the narrative, we all thought Merlin was just there. She was just being quiet. We thought things were popping off in the background. We thought she was cooking. But you can't cook if you're not even in the kitchen. And Merlin has never even appeared in the series. So she's definitely not in the kitchen right now. So I wanted to know, how were we feeling? Were we excited or disappointed? And with an overwhelming, I think one of the closest polls I've ever had, an overwhelming 90% of 433 votes, people are excited that Merlin is not alongside King Arthur. And admittedly, y'all spitting. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, here's the thing. Merlin is a character who, if you had to ask me right after Seven Deadly Sins ended, I was mostly indifferent to. The only thing I really didn't like about her is that she was just another one of the many women who loved Meliodas because, you know, Meliodas is the main character. And, like, I'm just not a big fan of that trope. It's just not for me. I get it. It's to fill, like, a self-fulfillment fantasy of people and stuff like that. I get it. I respect it. I understand it. I get why Nakaba would do it. But I wasn't the biggest fan of it. And obviously her, betraying all her homies for the Chaos King also isn't something that I was a very big fan of. However, seeing that she is not just standing by and watching extreme amounts of villainy occur does definitely redeem the character a whole lot, even if she's literally not doing anything else other than just having left Arthur's side. Leaving Arthur's side is such a big step towards me, like, actually respecting the character again. So I greatly appreciate it. I definitely agree with the 90% of y'all. Giving her a chance to be redeemed, giving her a chance to help our cast, and giving her a chance to be an asset instead of a liability. Really, really good, and I'm super excited to see what Nakaba does with it. However, that is my opinion. Thank you so much for participating in last chapter's poll, all 433 of you. Make sure you get your input in on tomorrow's poll, dropping at 12 p.m. to make sure your input is included for next week's review. Now, let's hop into Chapter 92. What's up, guys? I'm here, and here we are to review Chapter 92 of Four Knights of the which is known as Heart-Pounding Walnock. And with that being the case, I gotta get on Walnock's case, because who named it Walnock? Like, y'all couldn't get any more creative? Oh, it's a wall that has knocks in it, so we're gonna call it Walnock. Ha. But enough of that, let's hop right into the chapter itself. So we open up, and we do get to see that this is the walled city, Walnock. It's really a relay point between Dalmary and Leonis, with roads running in all four directions. Now hold on, as I Google the Kingdom of Dalmary, because I specifically meant to look that up, because it sounds familiar, but I don't actually remember where it was for and if we've ever seen it before. But it is very, very interesting that this place does have, like, a legit middle point that leads between two different kingdoms, because, I don't know, I find it interesting. And it seems like, that's where I remember it from. Okay, 8 miles above. Okay, it's all come together now. So that's just the town that's where Bond was being held, or at least the town near Baste Dungeon where Bond was being held. So that's nice. I like that we're getting there. So it's good to see that we're going back to an old fan favorite location, just because of how much happened there. But with that being the case, Walnock is a pretty interesting city. It definitely gives me flashbacks to the general concept. I'll admit, I'm not a historian. I always struggled in social studies. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe Jericho was the walled city. And ironically enough, I only know that because I remember watching, I think, some I would know any other time, and I could probably just look it up. But it was an Arkham City retrospective, not an Arkham City, an Arkham Knight retrospective, and the character Deacon Blackfire literally said, "Batman, these walls will come tearing down like the walls of Jericho," and that's what makes me remember that city had walls too. So I wonder if this is a similar case, or if it's like entirely historically inaccurate, and I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot, but still, like, maybe we can make this work in one way or another. However, with this being the walled city of Walnock, we have some very pertinent questions being asked by Best Boy. Is this town built by carving into the mountain? And I guess that's pretty impressive. Like, I wonder who helped build this. Like, maybe it was just like some powerful giants that came along and were like, boom, 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 Walnock. Humans, where's my money? And maybe that's it. But also, if it's literally carved out of a mountain, we know there are beings that can literally slice apart mountains. Like, there are multiple creatures in the Seven Deadly Sins world that could have done something like this with simply a sword. But seemingly enough, it's brick-laid, which makes me think it isn't actually properly carved. Because, like, you don't have bricks. If you're just carving something, the stone would look the same underneath. But who knows, maybe this is like extra fortifications, extra wall, and it could just be built into the side of the mountain, and not necessarily actually carved from the mountain itself. And we see that this wall is gigantic. Like, legitimately, our characters, who aren't the biggest, don't get me wrong, but like, they aren't that small. They aren't like 2 feet tall, and they are dwarfed by this wall. Crazy to think that, like, at least 3 of our cast members could probably blow this whole wall apart. 4. Maybe 5. No, just 4, I'd say. Gawain, Lance, especially, Tristan, and Percy, if they really felt like it, could absolutely annihilate this wall. Which is ironic, and I think it's kind of being subtly hinted at by the fact that they point out that the surface is covered in holes. And these could be marks made by magical attacks and or catapults. So Walnock has been under siege before, but obviously not by anyone decently powerful, because how are you doing this little damage with your magical attacks? I know they also say catapults, but like, really? Really? Like, I could do better. No, I couldn't. I definitely couldn't. I probably could. I can't chip walls. If you made me punch a brick wall, I would break my hand. But still, crazy to think that no one powerful has besieged this place before. Like, no one strong enough to just bust down a wall, when we know there are multiple characters that could. I do get it. We are in, like, a very special pocket of the verse. Not everybody is out here casually slicing apart landscapes, destroying mountains and stuff like that. But still, you think at least there'd be one time that the wall was entirely destroyed by somebody. And we see that Tristan gives us a little bit of exposition on Walnock. He's like, you see, my less intelligent and less informed friends, I can let you know why that there are magical attacks and catapults here. This is because the town is a major relay point for carrying bartered goods to Leonis. Whether it's bandits on a daily basis or other countries, if there's a war, it's attacked so often that hardships can never end. And I gotta say, that sucks. Like, a lot. Like, I would never want to live in Walnock then. You get nothing done. Or at least, like, obviously the wall is pretty well fortified. It doesn't seem like any of these attacks ever got through the brick. So, probably it's a pretty safe place to live, but even still, like, knowing that at random bandits are going to show up, or if you, because there's no, like, quick line of communication in this world, outside of, like, Gother, there was a war going on and you didn't know it, and like a whole army just marched to your front door. Like, that's gotta suck. I don't know. I wouldn't want to live there. However, with that being the case, the outer wall is just like a rampart because it's meant to defend against opposing armies and stuff like that. Which makes the next part very interesting. Like, they do just have a big old wide open gate. I'm assuming they can drop the gate if a need be. Like, if it's really that serious, they can just immediately boop, and the gate's down and not a problem anymore. But still, it's kind of interesting that the gate is just wide open. Like, they don't meet any guards or anything. Well, there are 2 guards when they walk in. And I'm presuming that they recognize Tristan, and Tristan sort of acts as like a convoy, or not a convoy. How do you put it? A Leonis ambassador, I suppose. Since he's a royal, like, he probably just gets free passage anywhere he goes. Because, like, unless you're Camelot themselves, what human kingdom is going to attack the Prince of Leonis when they know they have Meliodas waiting to fight them? In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if Walnock has been experiencing a lot less war and stuff like that ever since Meliodas became king. Because, like, the entire landmass has to know that nothing that they have is really touching Meliodas unless they happen to be a chaos deity walking around in a human form. So, I can see that. However, it's very interesting that the gates completely shut at night. So, essentially, if you're a bandit, all you do is you walk in, or sneak in, whichever you want to do, wait until nightfall, wait until right before dawn breaks, as they begin to open the gates, mug somebody, and get away. Take their money, take everything they have, take everything they own, and dip. At least that's what. Well, no, personally, I wouldn't do it. That's beyond my moral scope. I would never do that if I were a bandit trying to make a living, trying to hustle up. You know what I'm saying? But regardless, we do get to see that there is a dialogue repeat, as Gawain says twice. At any rate, what high walls and narrow streets this town has. At any rate, what high walls and narrow streets this town has. Thank you, Gawain. It was so nice she had to say it twice. However, with that being the case, yeah, it's called Walnock, Gawain. Like, of course, there are going to be walls in the wall knock. And of course, with there being so many walls, the streets are going to be pretty narrow, Gawain. That's how walls work. I don't blame him. Once again, like, I'd say even Tristan is pretty sheltered. So like outside, and even Lance probably spent most of his time in the world beyond. I doubt Lance really did much traveling about other than to Leonis and maybe to the Fairy King's Forest. So realistically, our cast is pretty darn sheltered. Like, they do not have much worldly experience, in big contrast to our original cast. So like, I can definitely see them being blown away and confused by new architecture and new building structures and stuff like that, because it is interesting. Like, I love traveling just to see how different places are set up and built, showing the different cultures and histories behind them and learning why certain things are built like that. Like, there's a place that I really want to visit that has, like, I forget exactly what it's called. I believe it's somewhere in Greece or Italy. I know those are nowhere near close to the same place, but there's a place in Europe. There we go. I can't be wrong if I say in Europe, where like the streets are built to confuse you. Like, legitimately, you run into so many dead ends and, like, unopened corners and stuff like that. Like, legitimately, you are meant to get lost there, mainly because it was a port town that was invaded so much that they literally, instead of sitting there and letting their town get destroyed over and over again, they just kept building the roads weirdly, so invading armies would get lost and confused, and they would eventually give up, if they could even leave the town, which is very, very interesting. I'd love to go there, well, get lost for a while, but hopefully I could find my way back. And I think that's not a similar structure to Walnock. Walnock seems very much built just to, like, lock people in and force armies into, like, one-way marching paths so they can be easily eliminated. Like, if you have, like, a massive line, it's going to be a lot harder to hit a bunch of people. Meanwhile, if they're walking in single file, then it'll be a lot easier to body bag them. And with that being the case, we see that these streets, once again, are so narrow that only one person can get through, and Donny and Percy are worried about the real grown-up things, the real true things in the room, where they're like, wow, high walls, narrow streets, darkness and night. Be such a shame if a group of young, strapping men and women were to play hide and seek. Like men and women. No, I do love Percy and Donny. Like, they've definitely developed a lot, but still, they still have their childish tendencies. Where, like, even Donny, who portrays at being more mature than Percy's, like, oh, you want to play later? Like, playing hide and seek is really the first thing that comes to mind when they're on, like, a world-ending, life-risking journey. Gotta respect their hustle. Definitely wondering how this group is going to operate once they're alone. Like, I'm presuming that Anne is going to take up group leader position properly this time. Because, like, without Lance and without Tristan, I don't know how this group is going to get anything done. Like, Percy is their leader. It's the Percy platoon plus Gawain. But Gawain seems very easily distracted. Percy's definitely very easily distracted. Donnie's also almost as easily distracted as Percy. Nasiens doesn't speak up that much. Ed's the only, like, sit-down leader type figure that they have. So, very intrigued to see where this plot goes once they finally separate. Anne is even the one to straight up call them kids when they bring up this proposition. Hey, Anne, don't sleep. Don't sleep. A good game of hide and seek does the body good. However, we do get to see that Lancelot's like, yo, let me level with y'all real quick. Now is not the time to be messing around. We are spending the night here and leaving for Dalmarie tomorrow. From there, we go our own ways, but there is a high chance that the enemy is already nearby, so be on the lookout, alright? Don't go playing hide and seek and get yourself kidnapped, because I'm not saving you again, because these roads are too narrow for Shining Road. So don't be dumb. Though, once again, I gotta mention this in the recent Lance video. Lance definitely takes up the leader role of the group, like, hands down. He's literally commanding them on what to do and how to do it. And I love it. I very much appreciate Lance in a leader role. And it's very interesting considering he's the son of Bon, who was like, I wouldn't say Bon was I mean, I guess you could technically say Bon was like the pseudo leader, but I wouldn't consider that. I'd much more say this whole leadership thing fell to Mel. Now Bon's son is sort of taking the lead, taking the role. Meanwhile, Mel's son is sort of just following his lead. And we see, speaking of Bon's son, he's looking about and he seems perturbed. He's like, something's up. And I do like that. Lance, with his consistent mind reading, probably would just be constantly scanning and reading hearts and stuff like that to make sure that they are in a relatively safe position. And we do get to see that according to Percy, it's so lively out even though it's nighttime, which is less of a crazy thing in the modern day, especially in cities. Like, typically when the dark falls, the freaks come out at night. So you'll definitely see lively night times depending on where you live. Unless you're like in the countryside where, yeah, it does get normally pretty shut down and peaceful at night. And we see that Donnie's like, whoa, baby, it's a festival, man. A festival. I'm about to get down and dirty. Where's that? Okay, let me stop. Are they carrying torches? Once again, I love this trio's dynamics very specifically because it's Percy who makes the big, massive observation. It's Donny who will bring a slightly deeper insight, and then it's Nasiens who will bring up something that could be hypothetically dangerous. And like you can look throughout the series, it is consistently that with this trio, and I love it. However, we do get to see that the reason the town is so lively isn't because they normally have a bustling nightlife. It's actually, according to Isolde, because their annual festival of the dead was today. I was almost going to say Dia de los Muertos, but I'm not sure if it's generally the same concept considering how different the two cultures appear to be. And we see Anna's, whoa, wait a second, Festival of the Dead, like, we're in a world of magic, y'all resurrecting people? And no, they're not resurrecting people. What they are doing is explaining that when night falls, everyone lights torches and parades through the town, praying for those who died to find repose in the next life. So many questions are raised by that, like, I mean, I get the general human populace is definitely not that educated about, like, the other species and stuff like that, but who are they praying to? Like, in the context of prayer, usually, at least in our world, you're praying to a deity of some sorts, like a higher power. But considering, like, goddesses, demons, giants, and fairies all exist, I wonder who they're particularly praying to. Like, is there a greater deity in this world too? Like, obviously we know they don't really know about chaos. Not even Meliodas knew about chaos, and Meliodas knows about everything. But seemingly enough, they are praying. And interestingly enough, they're praying for... I mean, I guess you could just say they aren't praying to any higher deity. They're just praying to the dead, which makes sense. And it's interesting that they bring up the next life and reincarnation, because there are two entirely separate realms to hold souls. Like, we have the capital of the dead, which seems to be the pseudo-heaven equivalent. Like, it's not as heaven as we see in some other places or in, like, other mythologies and stuff like that. But it's not, like, horrible. Meanwhile, we have, like, the purgatory equivalent, which is just flat-out purgatory. If not, you want to call that the underworld equivalent, which it entirely could be. But we still have reincarnation, which is very interesting. Like, I wonder how long souls stay in the capital of the dead or purgatory. If they get reincarnated from there, maybe there's a specific criteria to be reincarnated, because there are like 5 different ways to stop reincarnation. Like, you can get eaten by a demon. You can get reincarnated with your memories. You can get reincarnated without your memories. You can get existence erased by a goddess. You can get existence erased by Meliodas. Like, there's so many different things here in terms of, like, demonic ways to interrupt reincarnation and resurrection. So I'm really wondering how deep is the culture here? And, like, what these cultures and where they sprung from, and like how much of it is based on reality or based on like nonsense propaganda spread by the goddess clan. Like, I'm very, very interested. Once again, Nakaba teasing us with a lot of interesting information about the world. And we see the reason Isolde knows this is because, according to Jade, Chion, him, and Isolde came here way back when. And Chion seems to try and play it off like, did we? It just happens to slip my mind, I just don't happen to remember ever coming here without my cousin, ha 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 ha. And Tristan seems to be a little bit nettled that they came here and had a good time without him, because he says, listen to you, bringing out the real demon side without even activating a single eye. And we see them all apologize immediately, shaking and quivering in their boots, saying, we're sorry, please don't execute us with your big demon meat. Too soon. Is it too soon? Sorry, we'll get to the end of the chapter before we talk about big demon meat. However, we do get to see that Tristan isn't actually really mad. Like, he even straight up scared his horse, who's looking at him and sweating. But he's like, oh, I want to go sightseeing with you too. I always want to sneak out and come play with you, at least once. So yeah, Tristan is still, a goody two-shoes. So he obviously isn't really about that life. He ain't about that life. He should be about that life, but he ain't really about that life. And we see... I love the different reactions. Like, when Percy suggests doing some dumb stuff, like, Lancelot just says, hey, let's not do that. Let's take this situation seriously. We are, like, the top wanted people in the entire verse right now. Outside of, like, the original Seven Deadly Sins. But then, when Tristan offers doing some dumb stuff and scares his horse, even though he does get ISO'd, so, she gets the little heart signal, Jade collapses, and Chion collapses from fear. We see Lancelot straight up grab Tristan, presumably off his horse. Like, Tristan's on his horse in the previous panel, but Lancelot just straight yanks him off his horse and is like, we didn't come here to play games. Go find us an inn already. Like, I'll admit, as a guy with younger cousins, I do remember manhandling them like this, like straight up be like, don't do this. Stop. Listen. Obey. But the thing is, they're the same age and essentially brothers, which is nice to see. And we see that Tristan's like, ow, 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 okay, just for a little while, please. Let me have some dumb fun. And Lancelot's like, no, you find an inn now, before I hit you with another shining rose. Which is always funny. I mean, we do see, this whole chapter was indeed spoiled by Guinevere, and they end up at Gog Magog. And we see that this inn does have a person who actually recognizes Prince Tristan, which is interesting. Like, if Tristan never came, well, presumably he may have come here before, just not with Isolde, Jade, and Chion. They came separately. And he's like, oh, well, my word, if it isn't Prince Tristan, have you come by to see the Festival of the Dead? And we see that Tristan's like, I wanna, but the ferryman behind me would absolutely eviscerate me and all I love and care for if I said yes. So we're here for other business. 10 people, please, if possible. The most helpful would be 2 large rooms if they were available. And like, Tristan, you saw how narrow this building was? They don't have large rooms, dog. You're lucky to get a 2-person room. However, there is something about this panel that I want to point out. It's that Jade is off the za. Like, legitimately, look at Jade's face in this panel. He look like it's just weirdly drawn. I think it's because his hairline's up higher, his like hair split isn't as symmetrical as it was before. He just looks, for some reason, he gives me vibes that he is so far off the sauce. Like, legitimately, he's so high the clouds look low. That's how off the za he is right now. I don't know why. It's not like there's anything too crazy about it, but for some reason it just looks that way to me. And we do get to see the rest of the cast just looking around. Anne and Isolde are bonding, which is nice. Lancelot is still scanning the perimeter, being the real guardian. Donny, after a long walk, he's been tired. He didn't get to ride the goat Sylvan. Gawain is still flying and floating up in the air, even though I guess night has fallen, so it makes sense that she's not buff anymore. But still, she wasn't seemingly buff at all throughout the entire day, which is interesting. And Nasiens is just looking down at Percy, thinking about that unrequited love. While Chion is staring dead at the inn manager, be like, how dare you say Prince Tristan's name without sucking his toes first? I shall use my vampiric appearance to drain your blood. However, with that being the case, we do get to see that this scenario does not make Gawain all too happy. She's like, hey, don't even joke about that. Me share a room with the likes of you? Ha! I'm not trying to get demon meated. Stay away from me. And we see that Tristan's be like, come on now, Gawain. Don't make me slap you. Well, like, legitimately, he could. And Lance is here, so he could probably manhandle Demon Tristan. Like, I don't think Lance genuinely needs Shining Road. I think he could literally just palm Demon Tristan's forehead and just slam him up against the crowd repeatedly until he calms down. But we see he's been like, come on now. I just meant for us to avoid anything unexpected. If we're all together, there's less of a chance that we all get body bagged. We need Lance. And we see that Gawain is like, hold on. Wait a second. You may be spitting. If I share a 2-person room with Lady Isolde, I will gladly comply. Like, notably, I am one who usually supports the endeavors of hustlers. Like, like, obviously, I always am like, go for it. If you want it, go for it. always reach for your dreams, reach for the stars, supersonic racing. But, like, Iso even looks uncomfortable with it. Like, legitimately, Gawain, you even admitted that she's not interested in you. Like, you know that for a fact. There's nothing you can do to get up in her guts. Like, there's nothing at all. So you might as well chill out, Gawain. Really? Golly. And we see that the man is like, alrighty then, please wait one moment. And we see that Chion is just so focused on what, like, I'm definitely interested and intrigued to see where the narrative goes with Chion. Like, once he's finally away from the rest of the knights and he's finally just with Tristan, the only one he cares about, and supposedly his friends. I'm not sure. He seems like the guy that would trade in he would trade in Jade and Isolde for $1.50 and or anything for Tristan. So maybe he doesn't view them as actual friends, but I think he does. Once he's finally isolated from these other characters, I'm interested to see what other character traits he has, because all I'm getting now is treason. Because all he wants is Gawain is to be cursed, and I get it. Gawain is definitely being a little bit too thirsty for her own good. Throw a lake at her, but still. And we do get to see that as he's scheming and foaming and aching mentally, he's been told to quit it. Meanwhile, Lancelot's looking around and studying and feeling something that's off. He even narrows his eyes and tenses up. And Percival, being very attuned to Lancelot's mood, is like, hey, what's wrong, Lancelot? And Lancelot's like, hey, something felt off for a while now. Something's strange. And we see that the innkeeper is like, my deepest apologies. We have rooms 101, 205, and 207 available. 3 3-person rooms. That would leave the 2-person room for only one of you. And Anne's like, Nani Daisuke, we have to share rooms? And Isolde is like, no way. How am I? What? Okay, Nakaba. No, we can't do. What is this chat, Nakaba? Are you? Is the wife not okay? Like, is something happening, Nakaba? What in the world? Okay. Oh Lord, sweet mother of Gawain, you need to go in prison. You need to go, or you're 16, right? Juvie. Go to juvie. What the heck? Gawain is sniffing Isolde's hair, dog. What? Gentlemen, ladies, no matter how, anyone in my comment section, no matter what, never be this down bad. I don't care if you can fly and levitate and teleport around. Never sneak up behind somebody and start sniffing their hair. What in the world? Gawain, I've seen people down bad. I've seen people down horribly. I've seen people down atrocious. I've seen people down deeper than the Mariana Trench. But I've never seen someone so down. You're on the other side of the planet. You're not even on the planet anymore. You're on the other side of the universe. You're in another universe right now. Gawain, we need to find her a love interest. Quick, fast. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. We need another female character. Get her another love interest. Because, jeez, sniffing the hair is crazy. And she's taking deep whiffs, too. She is up in there. Isolde, I respect your patience and or obliviousness. Because she literally doesn't even acknowledge it. She just says, Tristan, should we find another abode? Nah, dog, what? I'm sorry. That threw off my whole train of thought. I just happened to be looking deeper. What in the world? However, we do get to see. Tristan's like, hey, I'm sorry, being real with you, we're lucky that we even have rooms for us to stay. If this really is the famous capital of the Dead Knight, there's like nothing else out there. Everything else is probably booked due to the festival. We'll take what we can get. And we see that Percival, completely ignoring Lance's warnings and his feeling that something is off, decides to put himself at danger and just go and leave the group. Percy, this is how you get kidnapped. Like, I get it, you're not very world warrior, but like, you literally just saw Arthur declare war on your entire kingdom. Or not your entire kingdom, but you and your entire group of friends. You think isolating yourself from the strongest warrior early is the best thing to do? I get it. They're going to be separated soon enough anyway, but I think they should take advantage of Lance's presence while they still have it. However, we do get to see that regardless of that, he doesn't care who he ends up sharing a room with. He's going to go out and get in where he can fit in and have a little bit of fun for a while. And we see that Donners, the goat, I almost called him the dote, but Donners, the goat, is like, yeah, you know what? Go ahead. I don't care to. We'll leave you be. You decide it. And we see that Gawain is like, hey, Wait a second. A room for 3, let alone 2, is out of the question. And then she is in there. What? Like, Isolde. I get it. Gawain could probably body bag Isolde in 0.25 seconds. Maybe that's why Isolde's ignoring it. But, like, Gawain literally is deep in there. Sniffing. Slurping. Like, her oxygen, her nostrils have to be burning with how hard and how fast she is sniffing up Isolde. What? And we realize that Isolde apparently hates sleeping with others. And looks like Gawain doesn't care. She's trying to sleep with Isolde. And with that being the case, we do get to see that never be this down atrocious, y'all. I don't care if you become super powerful, insanely superhuman individuals. Never be this atrocious, dog. Because what does Gawain say to the proposition? He's like, no, a 3-person room is fine by me. Lady Isolde and Anne Galahad, and there, it's settled. I would not leave her alone with them. Legitimately, I would be fearful. Like, I wouldn't want it, like, if I were in their positions, I would do everything in my power to get away from her. Like, it is genuinely scary. Poor Anne. She's going to be just constantly under assault by Gawain throughout her entire journey with her. Because she is way too happy to be with both of them. She's literally drooling and sending kisses out everywhere. Gawain, chill out. She's literally like leaning on Isolde too. Isolde, you can set boundaries. Well, maybe you can't. You're not strong enough to. But still, get Tristan to set boundaries. He can still slap Gawain. Alright, we do get to see that Anne just doesn't get what's going to happen to her. Like, Anne, you are not going to be in a safe space. Because she says, yeah, you're right. Since we're all 3 girls, it should be more pleasant. And you literally just slept with 3 guys. And not in that way, you freaks, you demons, you monsters. But, like, literally you just shared a bed with 3 guys. Still not in that way, but in that way. So come on now, Anne. You should be fine. However, we do see that Chion relishing the opportunity to sleep with his cousin. I'm not even sure if that's not in the way that you think it is way. It may be in that way, but he's relishing the opportunity to sleep with his cousin and his homie. He's like, then make that one for Sir Tristan, me, and Jade. And Tristan's like, well, since the girls don't have much of a choice, it should be fine giving us boys a different combination than usual, right? After all, we'll be splitting up tomorrow or the day after. Meaning, let's try this! Hand-to-hand combat. Tristan raised his fist, and that obviously means they're going to resort to violence. However, we don't get to see this violent, bloody fist match, as we cut away to the Donners doing some wall hopping. As the walls are so narrow within Walnock that he can actually still do it, and he is tall enough to stick between the walls. And as he struggles to hold himself up, which is very interesting, like, Donny, while not the physically strongest of the group, don't get me wrong, he should still be like peak athlete in terms of ability. This guy is a trained dagger fighter. I'm shocked he can only go up one distance and is struggling to maintain his body weight. Maybe his armor's a bit heavier than I would think it would be, but still, interesting. And we see that Percival's like, wow, Donners, this is amazing. You're Britannia's #1 wall climbing king. Like, I would but we do get to see that Percy's like, oh, well, if you're the king, let's see how I compare. I'm mere present. And Donnie's laughing as he forgets that Percival's literally like one of the most superhuman people he knows. And he's like, oh, well, the walls may be narrow, but you're still short, Percy. There's no way your arms and legs are long enough. And Percy, with a quick running start, proceeds to, not Spider-Man, but like hardcore parkour, way up higher. And he proceeds to lay himself out and stand there. I think he grabs onto a windowsill and plants his feet, which is very, very impressive. Like, I get it, he can literally fly, but even still, that much physicality, especially in a body that small, always impresses me. And we see he's like, well, and Donnie lands and is like, whoa, wow, awesome. You're Britannia's #1 wall climbing deity. And with that being the case, I wonder how high Lance could go. Considering we've seen him like traverse just like Percival just did in fox form. I bet in human form he's just like. However, we do get to see that Percy, he kind of pulled up on the wrong kind of window, if you know what I'm saying, or maybe the right one in his eyes, because he's staring pretty hard at this woman who is currently presumably getting dressed, or maybe not getting dressed. I think getting dressed, and they lock eyes as he's like, wow. Good evening, baby girl. Like, didn't Anne and you just have an entire conversation about this? How you're not supposed to do that? And I guess he's not going crazy, but still, he is looking pretty darn hard. We do get to see that the woman is pretty unhappy to be getting eyes all over, and we see Percy's like, oh no, that's right, I'm short, and I magically forgot my ability to fly, so now I shall collapse. As he proceeds to fall straight to the ground. And considering, like, Percy, I know he's like 4'11", but that should be at least like a solid 100 pounds. Shout out to Donny for being able to just flat face tank that and land with Percy on him without breaking any bones. And we see that Percy's like, whoa, you know. That was a surprise. And Donnie's like, that's my line, and get off my back. However, we do get to see that Hugo Strange from the Arkham City fame walks in, having gone to the gym, gotten his beard game up, and gotten his gains up. Like, legitimately, he's like, what's the fuss about? Teniac? Tianic? It's Tianic. I'm gonna say Tianic from now on because I cannot say the name. However, they call him Macduff, but they should call him Macbuff, and they should call him Hugo, or Doctor Strange if they will. Because golly gee willikers, man, maybe it's because I have Arkham on the brain, but this just looks like Hugo Strange. And we do get to see that she explains that, well, it's not necessarily the biggest of deals. It's just that some guy came in and was like trying to get a whole eye full, a mouthful, an earful. Like, might as well have taken a photo to make it last longer while he was changing clothes. And be like Tianic. Be confident, because she claims she has a dynamite body. And you want to be confident. And what we do get to see that Strange or Doctor Strange over here is like, such is youth. And we see that Tianic is kind of annoyed that he reacts so plainly to something like that. And he's like, hey, let's be real. I need to kill Batman before 8 o'clock. I'm sorry. I need to replace the Batman at 8 o'clock. So he's like, that's besides the point. Our intel is correct, I'm sure. According to our spy within Leonis, the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse who departed yesterday would stop in Walnock. The town gates close at 6 p.m., in which case they would have already arrived, to defend our king and the eternal kingdom. To defend our king and our eternal kingdom. Macbuff is so buff, bro. Like, even his neck. Like, golly gee willikers, I hope these guys are strong. But the crazy thing is, right? What? So, like, Arthur really is doubling down, because he has a spy in Leonis. But who could this spy be? Like if this really, because hypothetically the spy in Leonis could just be a misinterpretation on their part, and it's actually Guinevere who gave this information. But considering they were here in the original timeline too, it appears that the spy was always canon. So the spy did exist, seemingly enough. And with that being the case, who would our spy be? Obviously it can't be Meliodas or Elizabeth. I highly doubt it's them. Who would, because they specifically didn't announce it. They didn't announce it to anybody. It would either, like, obviously my brain is leaping to Chion. Or Jade. I think Jade, since he's been built up to be such a nothing character, Chion could be being used as a red herring, and actually it's Jade. Because we still don't know. Like, Jade is apparently Leonis born, but we don't know anything about his history or connections. I highly doubt Isolde's the traitor, just because, you know, main love interest, and I don't think Nagaba would go down that route. Gilthunder, I highly doubt too. I wouldn't see a reason why. Margaret, same thing. Like, I'm trying to think. It's probably someone who has a dead relative who Arthur, like, promised to revive them or give them a fake copy of them in Camelot, and that's why they're doing it. But I'm trying to think of who it could be. Like, maybe it's Pelio? But why would Pelio know? He's a Ruby level knight. Like, he's not even, like, anywhere near the top ranks. I doubt it's Hendrickson or Dreyfus, unless Dreyfus, like, wants to see his wife again and Arthur promised him that, or something like that. Like, I genuinely don't know. This is a very interesting new plot point. And I'll probably make a video talking about hypothetical traitors and their likelihood. But it is very interesting that Arthur not only has the key to the future now in Guinevere, but he also has a literal spy in Leonis. I wonder how they communicate, though. However, with that being the case, we do get to see that they go back to Gog Magog, and we see that Nakaba could not finish this chapter in time because all the inking's not there. But I don't blame him. Once again, why could I not say remember properly? But remember, Nakaba has no assistance. He does this all weekly by himself. The madman. However, with that being the case, we see that Percy and Donny come in, and they're like, hey guys, how's the room splitting up going? And they have not... Nothing has happened. They all keep picking rock. And they all engage in another game of rock, paper, scissors. And I love the difference in expressions. We see Tristan's really, really into it. Nasiens is a little bit concerned. Chion's overly into it. Donny seems a bit disinterested. Percival's really excited. Jade seems strangely excited. Yeah, he's probably the traitor. Lancelot seems oddly focused. Though, once again... You wouldn't want to play a game of rock, paper, you wouldn't want to play any game with Lancelot that involves any sort of random thought or random chance, because he can literally read your mind. And we see that he even has a spark of realization, like he either saw something in the game or saw something elsewhere. And Lance is the only person to, like, I guess have paper? I don't know, his hand is really weirdly drawn there. And we see... okay, so he played scissors. It's weird, because his hand is, like, halfway open, so it almost looks like an incomplete paper, but I guess it could be scissors. And we do see Chion, the monster, the beast he is, has a tongue game that Gawain would dream of, as he says, "Loser, Lancelot has to share a room with a stranger." But we do get to see that Lance is like, I lost on purpose, couldn't care less. And we see that Percy's like, are you feeling okay? Like, dude, you can literally read minds. This game should have been light work for you. And we see Lancelot's like, yeah, sorry. Don't know why. I'm just feeling out of it. Like, the great cosmic flow has been interrupted or something like that. And due to arbitrary plot things, I can't follow the original timeline perfectly, so I have to change things in order for Arthur to believe that there's going to be actual changes. But they won't be drastic enough to stop Arthur from using Guinevere's power for his own gain. So, But legitimately, that's it. Because we do see Percival's like, let's do it again. And Tristan's like, yeah, you know what? You're right, everyone. Why don't we start another bout? And strangely enough, Gawain is just missing from this panel of Anne and Isolde. She may just be sniffing. She may be underneath one of their capes and just taking a whole deep whiff, as far as we know with Gawain. I mean, we do get to see that Chion is very unhappy with the fact that he could not stay with his cousin. He's like, Sir Tristan, that line of thought is much too soft for the world of bouts. You're playing rock, paper, scissors, Chion. Admittedly for the fate of the world, but still rock, paper, scissors. We do get to see that Donny agrees with me. He's like, dude, chill out. It's not about, this is rock, paper, scissors. Cool your jet skin. And we do get to see that Tristan's like, all right, no matter what happens next, there will be no grudges. Rock, paper. Oh man, I lost. Isn't that the worst? Like, I hate when you like, admittedly, this is the salty gamer coming out of me, but especially, I remember when me and this particular friend of mine would play fighters, and like, we would win. I would win like the last game. We'd have like a really intense like 1st to 5, and then he would be like, yo, one more. Well, no, I would be like one more, because I thought, I beat him. I won the 1st to 5. I should be able to get another one, and then he would just mollywop me. Like, legitimately, for some reason, all the momentum I had would just vanish and disappear, and then bada bing, bada boom, I'd be done. However, we do get to see that now Tristan does indeed have access to room 304. And yeah, he did a losing in the end. And he says, well, I hope no one's frightful inside. That would have to make me whip out my demon meat. But whatever. Knock, knock. Excuse me. I beg your pardon, but would you mind sharing a room? And Tristan opens the door to censorship. Censorship. Yeah, I had to censor it. I don't care. I'm sorry. Y'all may have wanted something different from this, but no. It had to be censored. I'm too scared. The internet, it scares me. Gosh darn it. Gosh darn it, internet. Gosh darn it, Nakaba. How could you do this? How could you do this to me? You traitor! You traitor! But, golly gee willikers. I do think this is Teniak? English! I'm not even sure if that name is English. And we see that she's like, my, you're a cutie. Thanks for coming here tonight, Your Highness. And, he's gonna be coming here tonight. However, we do get to see the night has only just begun. What now, Tristan? Continued in chapter 93, Madrigal the Youth. Tristan lost rock, paper, scissors, and waiting for him was an adult lady. I'm going to assume, like, ironically enough, this does look like a reskinned Merlin with longer hair. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, literally cut off the hair that's coming down her back and just give her black hair. It's literally just Merlin. Except probably, I think it's shorter Merlin. But that literally is just Merlin's character design. I highly doubt it is Merlin, because I don't think she would do this. Then again, when Jericho couldn't get Bon, she did go for his son, and Merlin couldn't get Meliodas, and obviously didn't want Arthur, so she could be going for Meliodas' son. So, don't knock it off. And Madrigal, the youth, is very similar. They both start with M, at least, for Merlin. So, you never know, but I highly doubt it. If this is not Teniek, or whatever that lady was from earlier in disguise, which is what I think it is. I don't think Madrigal is a real character. I think this is literally just Teniek. But with that being the case, if it isn't and we get introduced to a new character, I mean, that's cool. You know, it's always nice to have new characters. However, I would think this is something more akin to like a Hauser showing up in that one town, or a, whatever Hauser's apprentice name was. I forget, I haven't read those chapters in a while. I think it's something like that, or something like Dolores and Nasien's grandpa showing up in that one isolated area. I don't think this character is going to end up traveling around with us. I think they may cause a little bit of trouble in this little mini arc and then disappear forever. I just think that's how it's going to be. I don't see, with how big the cast is already, I already made a video talking about how I think a lot of the cast is going to have to go one way or another, because I think the cast is just a bit too crowded. I don't see us adding a whole nother cast member. Though, Tristan getting down and dirty with someone that ain't isoled, someone's probably into it. However, overall, I do have to say the chapter was very, very good. It is much more an intermediary chapter, and of course, a majority of the chapter was, like, spoiled to us, but this is confirming some things. Obviously, the timeline is going differently than how Guinevere saw it, just as she warned Arthur, him changing even just a little thing. Like, seemingly, it is only Macduff and Teniek who are here. It's not anyone else, but still, in the original timeline, Lancelot ended up being the one who was stuck out of luck. But in this timeline, they ended up redoing the game. Now Tristan's stuck out of luck, and now he's ending up with Madrigal. So that's interesting. I'm interested to see what massive repercussions this supposedly is going to have. I don't think Tristan's life is in any danger. 1, because he's the main character. 2, because he's the main character. 3, because he's the main character. So I think that's going to be fine, but I'm interested to see. Gawain in this chapter was, I'm not sure if it's hilariously thirsty or scarily thirsty. I think it's a mix of both. So overall, I'm going to have to tell her to 5 chill outs out of 10. 5 chill outs out of 10 for Gawain. And overall, I really, really like the chapter. But that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below and support for as low as $1 monthly. Links to videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 monthly. Get the same perks and more. You can also view the live reaction to this very chapter on the Patreon and or by becoming a member. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.